All right. One of the guys I subscribe to made a video about Ray Lewis this morning, and I started to listen to him, then I stopped because I was also have just caught a portion of the Ray Lewis clip on News One. So I decided to go back, listen to the entire clip, make my own commentary, and then listen to Mr. Superboy to see what his thoughts are. So I could honestly say that my thoughts were my own and weren't really impacted by anybody else. So here's the clip, and you're going to be able to actually see the Facebook post that Ray Lewis actually made.
Folks, former National Football League player and Super Bowl champion Ray Lewis is blasting the Black Lives Matter movement when it comes to crime, specifically African Americans killing African Americans. He made these various statements on his YouTube and Facebook page. More than 2 million folks have viewed the comments. We're going to play some of those for you, and there's even one controversial issue that we're going to break down that deals with mandatory minimums. Here's a peek of Ray Lewis's video.
I'm trying to figure out if black lives really matter. I'm trying to ask the question if to the organization of black lives, if they really mattered, then why not riot now? There was 141 murders this year, 82 murders last year at the same time. I'm trying to figure out in my mind why no one is paying attention to black men killing black men. Why we always find ourselves as the victims. And now we have the separation once again that we're being victimized because of 1 bad white cop, 2 bad white cops, 3 bad white cops kill a young black brother. But every day we have black on black crime killing each other. I'm trying to stop to ask this one simple thing. When will we appreciate who we are? When will our skin color start paying attention to our own skin color? When will we stop crying that black lives matter? Because God says, I am Alpha and Omega. I am creator of all. And all come up under me with my spirit, which means color means nothing. I was asked if I was an elected official, what would I do to stop some of this violence? I would put barrels on each corner. I would give you 30 days to drop all illegal weapons in these barrels. And if you found yourself going outside of that, the moment I found you with them, that's 25 years mandatory. We got babies in Baltimore being shot in the middle of the streets. They're on their front porch and they're being shot. We got a family of 5 to 6 sitting in the backyard having a barbecue, and the whole entire family gets executed. But we keep screaming Black Lives Matter. If they really matter, then let's do ourselves a favor. Let's stop killing black folks. We all got our struggles. There's nothing about me that's perfect. I'm a struggling man every day of my life to walk the right path. I haven't figured it all out yet, but I figured out enough.
Now, folks, the total video is about 9 minutes, and of course, here are some comments that folks made on Twitter.
Before we get to those comments, what the hell was he I mean, it looked like he was trying to act like he was standing in the pulpit preaching. Okay, that's the one thing. Instead of just using straight talk, he's over here speaking in rhythm. That kind of bothered me about the whole thing. And the other thing that bothered me about the whole thing is, why is he downing Black Lives Matter? Okay? I mean, they are a positive influence, and he is taking on that same bullshit reasoning that you see people that are on Fox doing. You know, he keeps running back to why isn't Black Lives Matter speaking out on black crime. Okay, number one, guess what? Black Lives Matter is associating with various groups that are trying to do something about black on black crime, black on black murder. Okay, but guess what? Mainstream media never has cameras out there when they're working on that. So Ray basically is falling for the okie doke that he's being fed by white media, that the Black Lives Matter movement is just concentrating on police brutalizing, the black and Hispanic communities. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And see, that's why I can't stand some of these Negroes. He done made his money living in his ivory tower and not getting out there into the community, which is what he should be doing. If he's that concerned about Chicago, how come he don't have his ass up in Chicago trying to work, to get some of these problems solved? Okay, and the majority of the problems that we're talking about here stem from economics. If everybody up in Chicago, in the black communities, and you can't say everybody, but if the majority of the young men up there basically had jobs and were economically viable, I want to say 80 to 90% of this shit would not happen. These guys are out on the street with time on their hands, no money in their pockets, and acting like idiots. But if they had jobs, okay, going to school, being educated, they wouldn't have time for this crap. But he doesn't see this shit. I mean, these people have probably been in their current economic conditions for generations. You can't expect people that have been in poverty for generations and without any hope, okay, of bettering their lives to do anything but act in ways that are contrary to what we would consider to be normal and productive. In order to be productive, you have to have something to be productive with, i.e. a job. A job gives you self-respect. Self-respect allows you to aspire to be better than you currently are, and to aspire for your kids to do better than you. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's go on off into where these guys, Roland Martin and his panel, are.
I'm going to pull those up. Joel D. Anderson said Ray Lewis, once charged with murder, and someone who reached a settlement with a dead man's family, should pipe down about black-on-black crime.
Exactly. That's the pot calling the goddamn kettle black.
Next comment, please. Ray Lewis said that BLM should address black-on-black crime. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife at a Super Bowl party. Next comment. Many of us have been working on violence in our communities for years. Has Ray Lewis organized his athlete buddies to help? People talk without knowledge. That tweet from Tamika Mallory, one of the leaders of the New York Justice League, and she joins us right now via Skype. And so, Tamika, welcome to the show. Also on Skype is Melina Abdullah, professor of Pan-African Studies at California State University. I want to welcome both of you. Joining me in the studio, Laura Coates, former federal prosecutor for the Department of Justice, David Swertlick, assistant editor for the Washington Post, Rhonda Fahmy, former associate deputy secretary of energy in the Bush administration. Tamika, I want to start with you. First and foremost, this is not the first time that Ray Lewis has specifically talked about Black Lives Matter, what more they should be doing. Earlier I said it's about 2 million views. That was yesterday. Right now it's about 3.5 million. But a couple of things that he said. First of all, he said, why aren't folks rioting over this? John Hope Bryant with Operation Hope says this: you've never seen a riot in a community with the credit score is 700 or above. And now I listen to Ray Lewis talk about violence, and we deal with it on this show. But what I did not hear Ray Lewis talk about are jobs, poverty, a chronic situation that has been created in Chicago, created in inner cities, exacerbated by infusion of guns, infusion of drugs. I didn't hear any of that.
Right. I think, Roland, first of all, thank you for having me on, that Ray Lewis simply needs a seat. Because there are a lot of Black Lives Matter activists, if you will, the movement for Black Lives, folks who are engaged in that effort, who have been on the ground working for many years in communities all across this country trying to deal with the issue of violence. I could list a group of people from all over the country who have been doing the work. The question that I have is that before you speak out against what is Black Lives Matter doing, you should first ask yourself, what is Ray Lewis doing? And how much have you been supportive of those of us who are on the ground, who can't necessarily get funding or jobs into communities? As you have stated, Roland, there are many, many ills in the communities that create this environment where violence exists, not just in Chicago, but in Brooklyn, in the city in which I live, and in cities all over this country. And so it is easy to make blanket statements, and it seems that he wanted to show people that he was learning how to preach. But he should not have spoke. And as a matter of fact, let me go back and say, I agree that more people need to care, but caring is not all we need. We need more people to do the work. And so I would say to Ray Lewis that he should be organizing his buddies, his athlete buddies, to show up and get involved and help these organizations do the work.
Melina Abdullah, look, this is not the again, first time we've heard folks say this, and I'm looking at Ray Lewis's Facebook page right now, and what I'm looking for, Melina, I'm actually looking for other posts that actually speak to the fundamental problems in these communities. And so I don't see them. I see, first, and the reason I'm making this point, and I've met Ray Lewis, and Ray Lewis is a nice guy who has certainly a Hall of Fame career. But he has nearly 2 million people who follow him on his Facebook page. And my deal would be, if you're looking to challenge Black Lives Matter, I guess I would be expecting to see more about those very issues on the Facebook page, other than posts promoting your book, other different comments, be strong, take courage, those sort of affirming statements. I would expect more if you think this is an issue.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. And I think I just want to echo Tamika's points that when we think about so-called black-on-black crime, really what we're talking about is structural violence within Black communities. So there are reasons why we have crimes within our communities, why we have violence within our communities, and most of that boils down to economic questions, not enough livable wage jobs, not enough resources, not enough after-school programs, and we really need to challenge systems to funnel resources into the communities that would allow communities to flourish. When you see flourishing communities, you see drops in crimes. Rather than seeing the allocation of resources within our communities, we see resources pouring into policing, which does not promote safer communities. So we know right here in my city of Los Angeles, we're looking at increasing the policing budget while we have brothers who are doing work in communities and have been doing work in communities, as Sister Tamika said, for decades and longer. Brothers like Akila Sherrills, who has been doing work here in Los Angeles as well as in Newark, New Jersey with Mayor Raz Baraka, talking about how intervention and prevention work has been the primary means by which crime has gone down, yet cities have been unwilling to invest in those kinds of investments. An original member of Black Lives Matter and the Black Lives Matter Network, one of the things that we also need to think about is all of us who are committing our lives and our work and ourselves and our resources to making our communities better are taking pieces of it. So the Black Lives Matter Network is focused on state-sanctioned violence and is happy and committed to supporting those who have the expertise and working within communities to work directly with folks who are most affected by structural.
Laura, I need to go to you. Here's a problem that I have. So Ray Lewis talks about the violence in the communities. He's talking about young Black men killing one another, not having structure. Mm-hmm. But then he calls for a mandatory minimum of 25 years in prison, which, when mandatory minimums exacerbated the problems in the communities, and as a little thing called the Constitution and laws to somehow, so I get the emotion, I get the pain, but how do you think calling for a mandatory minimum is somehow going to fix the problem when we've had mandatory minimums since the Clinton crime bill in 1994, and tell me how that's actually fixed this problem.
It won't. It's as farcical as having barrels on every corner to stop gun violence, which is what he also calls for. The point that Ray Lewis misses fundamentally is this. You can still be opposed to state-sanctioned murder and homicide and killing, and also be vehemently opposed to black-on-black crime. They're not mutually exclusive. In fact, as a prosecutor, all the cases I ever prosecuted were all the same race against the same race. That means white and white.
Whites don't
white
kill
and
whites
white,
because when you
or
have
black
those who
and
kill
black.
each other, it's where they live.
And also, people are it's so not mutually exclusive, because to say that people are not entitled to be opposed to a police officer going above and beyond the call of duty, violating the law, and committing homicides, it would suggest that you are not entitled as a white person to be opposed to rape because there's been rape in your community as well. It's absurd.
But then, David, what also got me was, and Rama as well, as I'm listening to this, well, okay, there's one cop, there's two cops, there's three cops. I'm listening to that and I'm going, Ray Lewis.
Right.
Are you crazy? Right. Do you, okay, so my deal is like, Ray, you want to discuss Chicago? Right. Why don't we talk about John Burge? Why don't we talk about the number of black men who went to prison when confessions were beaten out of them? How about if we could talk about Chicago, because he kept bringing up Chicago. We could talk about Chicago, the Holman building that was where nobody knew about it, where they would take suspects and they couldn't call their lawyers. Family had no idea where they were. When you got cops over the radios using the N-word. When you have a total police system that is corrupt.
Two quick points, Roland. One, he must not watch your show, first of all, because we talk about this on your show all the time. There are cases all over the country, not one cop, not two cops, not three cops. Look, most cops are out there doing their job the way they're supposed to, but there are countless examples on video of police brutality incidents, police killing people, unarmed people, that he's not really addressing in that video. One more point I wanted to make, because I can't add too much to what everybody else has already said, except this. It's okay to criticize Black Lives Matter, right? Everybody can be criticized. I've criticized Black Lives Matter on this set, but Black Lives Matter, in the space of 2 years, has moved an agenda forward. It's a group that's decentralized, but different factions of that group have moved an agenda forward. You've got people, Ray Lewis is a Baltimore guy, you've got people like DeRay McKesson from Black Lives Matter running for mayor of Baltimore. He's not going to win, but he's pressing an agenda where he's trying to get this issue addressed in a way that Ray Lewis is not even addressing.
Wrong.
All I have to say is, what motivated him to make this video? I mean, clearly he's upset about crime, no question. But Roland, I think it would be great if you would interview him and ask him what motivated him. Why did he do this?
I mean, I would love to talk to him, and I'm about to send a tweet as well, because the problem I have is, Tamika, is again, you got 2 million followers, and again, we've talked about, I organized, and here's the other piece. When I lived in Chicago, had a radio show there, organized 1,000 black men to come to the House of Hope, led by Reverend James Meeks, to deal with this very issue. What I want to know is, when will Ray Lewis travel to Chicago and go to the communities? When will, to your point, organize the athletes, when will Ray Lewis begin to say, okay, who's actually doing the work to de-escalate violence in those communities, and are you guys funded? What assistance do you need? Sitting in your mansion, making a video in your prayer room, when many people in Chicago do not even have a prayer room, much less anything else, to sit there and only make this claim that, yes, we should stop killing, but there's something else at play. And so when you talk about Chicago, with those level of shootings, we are talking about a city where black folks have literally been frozen out of the economic upward mobility for 3 and 4 generations, and there was no mention of any of that.
Right, because he doesn't know. He's just speaking based upon what he has heard and what the enemy, in my judgment, has put into his mind. He is playing a divisive game that we do not need. It is not going to help us. I echo what Laura has said. We can chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. We can be against police killing us and against Ray killing John in our communities. We have the right to do both, and he does not know. And the reason why over 2 million followers, as you've said, what information is on his page is because this video that he did was about him trying to get publicity for himself. That is all it's about, because I promise you that he has not to have these conversations. I'm sure he has not walked the streets of Chicago. I'm sure he has not worked on the streets of New Orleans or come into Brooklyn or the Bronx or other places where violence is happening. And certainly, I am very, very much involved in the movement for Black Lives. I'm on the ground. When I worked for National Action Network for over 14 years, police accountability was one of our major efforts that we focused on. But at the same time, we had a very, very serious area where we dealt with gun violence, where we worked with a coalition of people to force New York City to put over $15 million into grassroots organizations. So if he wants to talk about people's records and what people are doing, he should call the people on the ground and find out how he can be supportive. Otherwise, sit down, shut up, and continue to do whatever it is that you've been doing from the ivory tower.
Melina, last comment for you, and I got about 30 seconds. As I listened to Ray Lewis talk about this violence in the communities, what immediately came to mind are the number of NFL players, NBA players, who've been busted with guns. And my question is, what conversation is Ray Lewis having with fellow athletes who have been busted with guns?
Right, absolutely. And, I'm not here to indict anybody. What I'm here to do is, and what we're here to do is challenge people, including athletes, to be involved, to be a part of the solution. So if you have a piece of the work that you want to carry, we want you to carry that work. We are in a state of war. We are in a state where Black people are being assailed by every possible means, and we need all hands on deck, including Ray Lewis. So get out there and do the work. Partner up with people who are doing the work and help us. Get out and help us. That's what we're looking for.
All right, Melina, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Tamika Mallory, thank you so very much as well.
Thank you.
Folks, coming up next.
All right. The panel on Roland's show were much more elegant than I will ever be. So I'm going to just say this. Ray Lewis' old ass is looking for publicity. Now, right after he retired from the Ravens, I've seen him one time come down to a school in Baltimore to talk to young people. Okay, I seen him one time when Baltimore was having those riots, get out there and say something. Okay, not do something, just say something. If Ray Lewis has 2 million followers, why hasn't he tried to organize his own followers in order to have a positive impact on communities of color? Now, obviously, all 2 million followers aren't all going to be Black, and they're not obviously all going to be in urban areas, okay? But some of them definitely are. Why hasn't he done anything? All he has gotten out here and done is run his mouth and practice preaching. He needs to get his Black ass up, go out to Brooklyn and the Bronx and Chicago and LA, and like this woman said, get on the ground, ask them what he can do to help them, find out exactly what they're doing, and stay his ass off of Facebook unless he's going to do it for a positive reason, okay? Not just for self-promotion. And that's what gets me, and then he turns around and takes the Fox News narrative about black on black crime and crying about it. Fuck that shit. Everybody knows that, Fox don't give a damn. They just put that shit on there in order to give cover to the racist attitudes that they have on the show. Don't talk about your people. Work with your people. help your people, don't denigrate your people. Ray, you needed to sit down and shut the fuck up.
To have these conversations. I'm sure he has not walked the streets of Chicago. I'm sure he has not worked on the streets of New Orleans or come into Brooklyn or the Bronx or other places where violence is happening. And certainly, I am very, very much involved in the movement for Black Lives. I'm on the ground. When I worked for National Action Network for over 14 years, police accountability was one of our major efforts that we focused on. But at the same time, we had a very, very serious area where we dealt with gun violence, where we worked with a coalition of people to force New York City to put over $15 million into grassroots organizations. So if he wants to talk about people's records and what people are doing, he should call the people on the ground and find out how he can be supportive. Otherwise, sit down, shut up, and continue to do whatever it is that you've been doing from the ivory tower.
Melina, last comment for you, and I got about 30 seconds. As I listened to Ray Lewis talk about this violence in the communities, what immediately came to mind are the number of NFL players, NBA players, who've been busted with guns. And my question is, what conversation is Ray Lewis having with fellow athletes who have been busted with guns?
Right, absolutely. And, you know, I'm not here to indict anybody. What I'm here to do is, and what we're here to do is challenge people, including athletes, to be involved, to be a part of the solution. So if you have a piece of the work that you want to carry, we want you to carry that work. We are in a state of war. We are in a state where Black people are being assailed by every possible means, and we need all hands on deck, including Ray Lewis. So get out there and do the work. Partner up with people who are doing the work and help us. Get out and help us. That's what we're looking for.
All right, Melina, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Tamika Mallory, thank you so very much as well.
Thank you.
Folks, coming up next.
All right. The panel on Roland's show were much more elegant than I will ever be. So I'm going to just say this. Ray Lewis' old ass is looking for publicity. Now, right after he retired from the Ravens, I've seen him one time come down to a school in Baltimore to talk to young people. Okay, I seen him one time when Baltimore was having those riots, get out there and say something. Okay, not do something, just say something. If Ray Lewis has 2 million followers, why hasn't he tried to organize his own followers in order to have a positive impact on communities of color? Now, obviously, all 2 million followers aren't all going to be Black, and they're not obviously all going to be in urban areas, okay? But some of them definitely are. Why hasn't he done anything? All he has gotten out here and done is run his mouth and practice preaching. He needs to get his Black ass up, go out to Brooklyn and the Bronx and Chicago and LA, and like this woman said, get on the ground, ask them what he can do to help them, find out exactly what they're doing, and stay his ass off of Facebook unless he's going to do it for a positive reason, okay? Not just for self-promotion. You know, and that's what gets me, you know, and then he turns around and takes the Fox News narrative about black on black crime and crying about it. Fuck that shit. Everybody knows that, you know, Fox don't give a damn. They just put that shit on there in order to give cover to the racist attitudes that they have on the show. Don't talk about your people. Work with your people. Help your people. Don't denigrate your people. Ray, you needed to sit down and shut the fuck up.